What's up, y'all? This is Jay with The Fight of Faith again with another co-cast episode featuring Preston Hocker, the pastor of disaster from the Saved and Savage podcast. We discuss his beginnings in martial arts, in ministry, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy his testimony. Check out his podcast, and if you need prayer, if you need help, whatever you need, call or text my prayer line at 424-70-FIGHT. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you have a podcast and you want to collaborate with us, hit me up and let's do a co-cast together. Enjoy, and God bless. What's up, everybody? This is Jay at The Fight of Faith, and today I have a special guest. His name is Preston Hocker, pastor of disaster from Saved and Savage podcast. How you doing this morning, bro?
Hey, man, I'm doing good.
Thanks for taking the time. How you been?
Busy.
Yeah. You're working hard, man. You're doing a lot of content.
I'm working real hard. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people think pastors like get the day off or like, I don't know, the weeks off since this quarantine, but on my life, I'm working harder now than I was when the church doors were open.
Right.
And then on top of that, yeah, starting a podcast and stuff just is, yeah.
And you go to the office at the church pretty much every day, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, and then Sunday. Yeah.
So what church is it at in Virginia Beach? Let everyone know where you're at.
Yeah, we're at Freedom Fellowship in Virginia Beach. If you're familiar with Virginia Beach, the area is called Hilltop. It's a really great place to be and belong. Real proud of my church, actually.
Yeah, that's great, man. You've been there your whole life, you and your dad?
Yeah, so my dad or my family moved here from Illinois when I was like 18 months old. And that's kind of been it for me. It's just, we moved here when I was 18, and then I grew up coming here, and then I went to school. A position opened up, and it just kind of made sense for me to slide into a youth pastoring position. And
nice. From
there, I call myself like I'm the junk drawer of ministry. Like whatever needs a leader, I just end up leading. So nice. If I have something, they just like throw it at me. So I've done everything, man. Like everything, nice. But like bookkeeping, and they don't want me to do that. So leading worship, kids ministry, youth ministry, cleaning the toilet.
So you lead worship. That's great.
Yeah, I have. I still lead worship for like youth group. But nice. I have led worship in like for our main sanctuary when we were between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy, like how our stories kind of reflect, because I was a worship leader.
Okay.
Like at 14, 15, because my leader left. So I was just kind of like, I had to, and ended up being a youth pastor as well. And, but for you have a unique ministry though, you got to admit. So for people that don't know, I first saw you at the documentary, the Fight Church documentary. Okay. How was that all for you? Was that like you were proud to like talk about it and get it out there, or did you face any like rebuttal or,
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't face too much. I mean, it was a controversial thing.
Yeah, that's the word, controversy.
There was a bit of controversy that went with it, but not from my local community. Like all of my people get it. Yeah. I faced more controversy. So just for anybody that doesn't know about Fight Church is a documentary that we did. I don't remember how many years ago, but years ago.
Right.
And it basically followed a handful of pastors who are involved in mixed martial arts, whether competing or training or just supporting or coaching, any of that. Right. And I didn't face any controversy from my local community, but I caught more like when the movie released and we were doing like film festivals and stuff. We would like show up to like do the viewing of the film and then take some like Q&A after. I had a lot more like hate that came at me after.
I was
like,
thinking.
I thought people were coming to people were coming to watch the movie because they were supporting it. At least that's what I thought. But they were like, some people were like coming to watch the movie just to like throw stones. But
Yeah, this is my chance to tell this guy to repent.
Yeah, like
yeah.
For me, it's always been a game. Like fighting has always been fun. Like I remember like growing up as a kid wanting to be a Ninja Turtle, like so like I've got pictures of me when I was a kid wearing boxing gloves that are way too oversized. I've like vivid memories. I have vivid memories. Like me and my cousin Steve, we were in we basically made my hallway in my childhood home. That was a boxing ring for us. Like and somehow, I don't know why my parents let us do it, but I remember being like 6 years old and like 7 years old and strapping on gloves and just beating the crap out of each other in the hallway. Like, it's just always been fun to me. It's never animosity.
Right. It's all love.
Oh man, always.
Yeah.
So I struggle a little bit when you find like the one guy that wants to talk a bunch of trash before the fight, because I just don't get it. Like I don't understand it. But I just kind of chalk it up to like they got to do what they got to do to like want to hit me in the face, I guess.
So you've always been a Christian pretty much and always been a fighter at heart. But when did you actually have your first fight? Like what made you actually want to compete?
Well, I've always kind of been a fighter at heart in that like I always knew I wanted to like defend people. So like I never, even when I was a kid and I didn't know how to fight, I always felt like I was tough, like, and I think I got out of a lot of fights that I may have, I don't know, like I wouldn't say I was picking a fight, but like I'm not one to stand by and let a kid get bullied. So like even when I was a kid, I'd see a kid like getting bullied and I'd like go up to that kid and say something to him and they would like always back down. And I was never big. I was never like, I was always some short preacher's kid, like some white kid, like dark hair. I had like glasses. Like I don't think I ever looked the part, but I think I just kind of projected like confidence and like, I don't care if you're going to beat me up kind of a thing.
Right.
But, so I always had like this fighter. Yeah, I wasn't afraid I've never been really afraid to get beat up. Even like in competition, it's never a thing of I'm afraid to get beat up. It's more of I just don't want to lose. And so like I took my first fight because I first started training because I had a friend from school that got murdered tragically. So she had moved in with a boyfriend who she found out was like really just jealous and controlling, and so she decided to move out. And this guy found her in a parking lot. She was with a couple of friends, and he like had a gun on him. He had some words with her, and she was with a male friend and a female friend. And he had some words with her. He pointed the gun and killed her. Shot her in the parking lot and killed her.
So where is that guy now?
I don't know. I don't know.
I was hoping you would say he's locked up forever and ever.
Actually, if I remember correctly, I think he might have actually killed himself too. Now that I think back on the story. But it's just a tragic story. And I actually heard about it on the news. So like I hadn't even heard like from friends yet. I was sitting in my in-laws' house and we were just kind of sitting around talking, and the news happened to be on, and my friend had a very specific last name. Like it's not like Smith. And so like when her name came across the TV, it was like everything stopped and it was like, what? Hold on. We gotta look at this. And so I had never fought before or trained anything, but I always felt like I was tough. And I think a lot of guys think they're tough, but like you can think you can draw all you want, but unless you pick up a paintbrush and practice, you can feel like an artist, but you're not an artist until you actually start to draw. So like I felt like I was tough, but I never knew if I could fight because I never got in a fight outside of like, I've still to this day, I've never hit somebody without a glove on. And so like,
that's all right.
I wanted to know if you what?
That's all right. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Like it's okay. Like I actually like being able to say that. I think it's good for I think it's good for the sport, for like people to be able to fight inside a cage and not have to fight outside of a cage.
Right.
But like, so I wanted to train just to figure out if I could actually fight, or if I could even survive a fight. And that was really where the first fight came from. I fought a guy I had no business being in a cage with. Like, he was a head taller than me. Like, it was one of those like early days amateur fighting.
Sure.
And the promoter was a little grimy. And like, I was supposed to be fighting at 55. I was supposed to be fighting at 155. And like the week before the fight, he said I didn't have an opponent, but he had a guy for me at 170. And I asked him, now, is this a natural 170 or is this guy dropping? And he was like, no, he's natural. I was like, all right, whatever, let's just go.
Sure.
So I put on, yeah, I had done like a solid like 8-week fight camp. It was going to be my first fight. I go in. It's one of those like weigh in same day fights. Like, I had to weigh in that morning. And like, we're all lined up, and there's this one guy with like, he's this white guy with like cornrows. He's the one guy in the whole room walking around without his shirt on because he's jacked.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
Dang, that guy's big. And he gets in line right. He gets in line right in front of me to like see the doctor and like check his weight, all that stuff. And his name was Kyler Von Wald, and I'll never forget his name just because like
that
one
sounds scary.
Right? And so he steps up to see the doctor and is like, "What's your name?" And he says his name. And I'm like, "Are you freaking are you kidding me right now?" I was like, "Oh, whatever, man. We're just gonna fight. Whatever."
Yeah.
Whatever. So then like I'm right behind him, and I step up and I say my name, and I don't even think he didn't even care. He wasn't even seeing me because I was so much smaller than him. And, like, this dude had cut from like a good 200 pounds to like make weight.
Right.
So like, he was just huge. Literally, my dad, later in the day when my dad got there, he saw this guy walking around, and he goes, "Man, I'd hate to be the guy that has to fight him." Like, that's me, Dad. That's me.
Good luck, son.
But we had a good fight. It went the distance. I lost the split decision. So
way to go.
It was my first fight ever. I remember like punching him in the face. I hit him with a right hook, and it was like slow motion. You know, like in that first like Spider-Man movie when he just got his powers and everything seems to be like the Matrix.
Yeah.
And like, and he's in like the high school or whatever. That's kind of what it felt like when I hit him for the first time, and like all that energy like just like transferred from my arm to his face. I'll never forget that feeling. But I had a good time, which is why I kept fighting. You know, I wanted to take that first fight to see if I could survive. And I figured if I had fun losing, winning would be even more fun. So I kept training and took some more fights and had a bunch since then. So I just keep having fun.
And now fast forward to now, what kind of made you decide to start the Saved and Savage podcast?
Well, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a couple of years, and really the reason why I pulled the trigger now is because I feel like we have a very captive audience.
Oh yeah.
Very like as in literally captive. There are people that are just looking for something else to listen to. But I want to inspire people, specifically Christians. I want to inspire Christians to do something other than warm a seat. I think there are a lot of
Amen.
Christians that ought to be doing stuff. God puts dreams and desires in our hearts on purpose, and too often we use prayer as a form of procrastination. It's like, I want to do this. Let me just pray about it for another month or 6 months or a few years. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 70 years old and you never did the thing that God put you on this planet for. And so I want to inspire people, and there's obviously going to be some fighting in it, but like I'm dropping an episode tomorrow morning, just talking about fitness and health. And like, I think that's really a missed topic is how we treat our bodies. And God gave us this body, and like, I've got tattoos, and I've had people like tell me, well, isn't your body supposed to be a temple? I'm like, yeah, man, I put stained glass on it. And so
yeah, there you go.
I think some people look at just what's on, like right on the skin, and they're like, you can't have tattoos because your body's supposed to be a temple. But then they go home and they're drinking like soda and eating cookies, and all their food is fried and it's all one color. It's like tons of carbs and no nutrition. And like, so I want to inspire people to like treat their bodies right. I've got a guy that's going to be on the podcast like next month. He's a Spartan racer.
Nice.
And a really great story, Christian guy, but he didn't grow up as a Christian, like dealt with a ton of hate and anger in his life. He was a smoker, drinker, alcoholic, gave his life to Jesus. And now I think he finished last year 9th in the world for his weight class.
Wow.
And he got to go race in Sparta. He did a Spartan race in Sparta last year, which is like one of the
so epic.
Like, oh my, right?
Oh,
like how do you top that? Like how do you do something bigger and cooler than racing, like doing a Spartan race in Sparta?
If I could do that, I would get the body and the outfit of Leonidas before I do that race.
Yeah. I would try to grow a beard. I can't. Like, my beard sucks, but like I might strap on like a fake one.
yeah, just for the race.
Because why not?
Yeah. That's incredible. Because speaking of your temple and everything, I really like your content. You have a good podcast. You already had Rory McDonald on. That's awesome. Like,
wasn't he cool, man? He's so cool.
Yeah, that was great, man. He I was so happy to even hear of his conversion like a year ago. So like this community, not only in the MMA community, but I really feel like a lot of athletes are becoming more and more open about their faith. Because if people are so open, they can talk about they don't believe in dinosaurs and they believe in flat earth, why wouldn't people be willing to hear about Christ? Because I feel people are more open to that, what people's beliefs are.
Yeah, I think people are looking for something right now, especially in this season. I mean, I think people were looking for something to believe in before Corona, but even more since shutdowns, lockdowns, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, like now even more, I think they're looking for something else to believe in, something else to live for. I think is a really great time. And I think you're right. A lot more athletes are becoming more vocal. I mean, the truth is Jesus changes your life. He changes things. That's why him coming, his birth isn't like good advice. It's good news. It's the difference, man. Like, Jesus isn't good advice. He's good news because he literally changes your life. And so like when people get how true that is, the big truth that Jesus will change things, that you can't help but want to tell other people about him.
Right. Amen. It's how he represented the Father to a culture that was very religious and saw God as like vengeful, wrathful, judgment, but for him to reveal the love of the Father in such a way, it's a really beautiful thing. Like, I think that's what we're called to do. I really resonate with your message because when you say, if everybody just stepped up to the plate and do what God put on their heart to do, like their purpose or their destiny, like imagine how happier the world will be. Like, or if someone would just not settle, because this is my dream, if I could do podcasting, talking with people like you full time and just like train, stay in shape, dude, that's living the dream, right? But I drive trucks for a living for now, but
that's cool.
But yeah, so I feel like eventually in God's perfect timing, like I will might be able to be in full-time ministry and doing podcasts and stuff like that. But I kind of always felt fortunate though, because since I found God at an early age, I always had a direction though, how many
Mhm.
people go through life with no direction, and even when they hit 30, 40, 50, don't know where to go. So I really appreciate your message, man, giving people hope and kind of giving them the faith to step out of the boat to do what they love. And it's great, man. I know that your podcast and your ministry is going to definitely influence and affect a lot of people in a positive way, sharing the love of Jesus. And but for you, because you're a pastor, you work with kids. I mean, how much are you looking forward to when everything comes down and you're going to be able to train with kids again and do the training? Like, what kind of program you got going on for people who don't know with the training that you guys do in your ministry?
Well, until recently, I used to. We've basically got a whole gym in what we call our ministry center. So I've got, I don't remember the exact square footage, but we've got mats and Thai pads, got a couple heavy bags, focus mitts, everything that you would need, like for a boxing or Muay Thai or MMA school. And we've trained a bunch of fighters, guys that have, even some have gone pro since. Really what we do is I like to get guys started, get them their first couple fights, and then I find a good gym that I think they're going to fit at, where I think they're going to grow a little better. Because I'm not like a full-time academy. I just don't have the time for it. But I really like I really like helping people get their foot in the cage, and then helping push them to succeed wherever that ends up being. And a lot of the guys, they end up still hanging with me. I'll connect them with a gym that I think they're going to get really good work at, depending on what their skill set is. If they're wrestlers, if they're more of a striker, any of those kinds of things, I'll connect them with gyms, because I've been in this game for a long time and I pretty much know everybody, at least in this area.
Nice.
And so I'm able to connect them with people, help them grow in those areas. But a lot of them end up wanting me to like still do X, Y, and Z with them. Just because I think home is comfortable. And so like we try to run training, or we run training out of our ministry center, depending on the weeks and depending on what's going on. Like I've got one kid that his name is Shay. You can find him on Instagram, Suga Shay, SUGA
Hey, I like that.
SCHEY. I'm going to make fun of him for just a second, but I make fun of him to his face anyway. He's basically like my kid. Like he's all but my son. I'll say like he's an adopted nephew kind of.
Cool.
Like he got the name Sugar Shay because he wouldn't stop eating cookies. Like, he's only 14. He's been training with me already for 4 years, and
nice.
Legitimately can beat up grown men, and he doesn't look like it, but he can. And so I'm looking forward to like we're training with him, or we're training him. We train a ton of fighters. We get guys that like are fresh out of jail that nice. Can't afford training, but they really like fighting and they don't want to get in trouble. And so like I open my doors up to them, and I train guys that nobody else wants to train because maybe they had a bad reputation. And I think if I get accused of any one thing, I think getting accused of, being too nice or being too open or too forgiving is probably a good thing to get accused of.
Yeah, of course. It's great.
And I think that's one of the things I've been accused of is like, letting people train with me that I probably shouldn't let train with me. But like at the end of the day, and I don't mean to sound like coarse or brash, but at the end of the day, like I'm going to let them train with me. The worst thing that happens is I have to kick him out. And he might have a lot of tattoos, but the truth is I can beat him up. So like he doesn't.
You'll be okay.
I'll be all right. It's fine.
Yeah.
But so we just kind of take those risks, and for the most part, we've had one that I know of that didn't really work out. But pretty much all of them do, because it's a respect thing too. Like kind of teach them how to respect, and it's fairly humbling. Like this one guy, he was one of my former inmates. He came out acting all tough. He was like tattooed from like neck to fingertips.
Nice.
And like, I've got a few, but like, I really don't look like the fighter type.
Yeah, you're not
And
Travis Barker from head to toe.
Yeah. We were sparring, and if you look back through my Instagram far enough, you'd find it. But like, I hit this dude with a back kick straight to the liver and dropped him. And I think that in itself is humbling.
Oh yeah.
Like you have this ego, you're arrogant because you've done X, Y, and Z, and nobody can tell you nothing. And then this little white pastor just dropped you. All of a sudden, you learn how to respect people. It's really funny.
We all need to get dropped or tapped out every once in a while.
Every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if you always win, if you're the best guy in the room and you're always winning, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
Right.
Definitely.
So,
hey, who's your favorite fighter?
Oh man. Right now,
Yeah.
mixed martial arts. I don't know, man. Honestly, I really like Mike Chandler.
Nice.
And that might be an unpopular opinion, because I think this is where I differ sometimes too, is like, I'm not always looking at like the champs. Like, I just like certain people's styles, and I like the way he fights.
Man, what a wrestler, huh? I love that.
Yeah, I'm a big wrestling fan too, so
yeah.
I'm gonna probably kind of lean toward Mike. He's not in the UFC, but I don't know if he would win a UFC title, but I think he could definitely compete at the high level.
Definitely.
In the UFC.
Hopefully we can get him on our shows.
Yeah, I bet he's actually pretty cool. He's responded to me before, like on a DM, and like he's actually shared some of Shay's stuff on his like Instagram story, because Shay's like, during this whole quarantine thing, he's trying to work out. The kid dropped so much weight. He was doing so good in wrestling season. It's another thing about this whole quarantine thing. Me and Shay worked for a year to get him ready for the big like Virginia Beach middle school wrestling tournament, because Shay's only in 8th grade.
Gotcha.
And then our middle school wrestling tournament got shut down because of this stupid virus. So like, we worked for a year. I feel really bad for him, but
dang,
he'll have a lot more bigger tournaments that he's going to crush anyway.
Yeah.
But let's see, who else do I like? I mean, all-time favorites, I really like TRT, Vitor Belfort.
Me too, man. Oh, he was the best. He was unbeatable.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So good.
I think you're gonna see him come back, because he's gonna go at 1. I don't think one championship has the same testing.
Is he going to 1?
I think so.
Man, he was even just young Vitor. Young Vitor.
What a monster.
Just
man.
that, like, yes. They don't make him like that anymore, I don't think. I can't think of anybody that's that vicious. Like, he's a monster.
It's hard to find guys who majority of the fights that we watch in the UFC now is just guys who just want that W, like that. Even if it's a boring W, it's a W. But because before, I think the guys back then had like, they were fighting for their lives growing up, so it's just a different grind, I think, nowadays. I mean, I'm not a fighter, no means, but it's just I got at a point where when WEC was around, I only watched WEC for a season, because those were the lighter weight classes and those guys were hungry, and those are watching Jose Aldo and like
old Uriah Faber,
Mike
or
Brown.
Young Uriah Faber. Yeah.
Dude, I miss Mike Brown. He's a great coach. But that guy had some awesome fights.
Yeah.
Ian McCall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and also one last question before we call it for in your life, what was the biggest fight or obstacle that you had to overcome? The hardest thing. Doesn't have to be spiritual. It can be like a physical thing or a relationship thing.
I've had a handful of them. I'll lump a few of them into one. How about that?
Okay.
Really learning how to trust God, which is kind of a ballsy thing to say as a pastor.
Sure, yeah.
But it's true.
I love the transparency,
Like,
man.
it's true. Like, and this isn't just from like a kid. This is like within the last, starting about like maybe a dozen years ago, but even as early as a couple of years ago, because things happen in life that, and like we have this idea that God should do X, Y, or Z for us, right? Because he's God.
Right.
And so like I've got a ton of back problems. My spine's shaped like an S. I've got Scheuermann's disease, so like all the vertebrae in the lower part of my back, my lumbar region, they're all deformed.
Wow.
I broke a vertebrae. We think from riding a horse that like it flipped, tripped, rolled over on top of me, dragged me. But like I have a ton of back problems, and there was a time in my life where I was like literally I couldn't walk straight. So that's another reason why I fight. People ask me, at least a couple of years ago, people would ask me, why do you fight? And a lot of times my answer would be because I can. Because I physically can. And like a few years, years before, when I was, I guess it was probably like closer to 14 years ago, I was literally stuck. Like I couldn't lift my back up. I couldn't walk straight. My back had locked up, had all these problems. Still, if you look at my x-rays, still have all these problems. And I had experienced miracles like praying for a blind lady that walked away with sight. So I knew that God could heal me.
Amen.
So it wasn't like a question of if I believe in God. It was do I believe God is good? Like I know God is there, but is God really as good as he says he is? So I struggled with that. God ended up like convicting me. I ended up praying, God, instead of God, I need you to heal my back, it was God, why won't you heal my back? And he answered my prayer. I changed some things in my life. 3 days later, I was walking straight up.
Wow.
Then it hit me again. My wife and I struggled to have a baby. We struggled with infertility. We tried for close to 10 years before my wife finally got pregnant. And in the middle of all of that, I would go through these like seasons of, God, I'm doing this for you. I've done this for you. I've lived for you my entire life. I've made these decisions instead of those decisions because I'm living for you. And why won't you? And then, being a youth pastor and you have kids in your youth group that get pregnant. So I've got like 16, 17-year-old kids in my youth group that are having babies. I've been married for 10 years and you won't let me get pregnant. Come on, man.
Wow. Yeah.
So learning to trust God, not believing that he's there, but really trusting him through those like valley seasons, through like the tough times. Because
that's good, man.
Really it's easy to trust God and believe that he's good when everything's good. It's really hard to trust God and believe he's good when everything's bad. So understanding that our circumstances don't define how good God is. God defines how good God is. And then if I hold on I feel like God almost plays me sometimes in that like I feel like when doubt hits me the hardest and I'm like shaking my fist at him, it's like the next day everything hits. I'm like, oh man, I feel like an idiot. Like I just like
perfect
told
timing.
God he wasn't good, and now he's proving that he is. So I think
Amen.
I'm learning, even now, 35 years old, well into my walk with God, I'm still learning and having to learn. Just keep trusting him. Everything's going to be okay. Just
Amen.
keep trusting. Everything's going to be okay. So I think that was probably a bigger answer than.
No, that's great, man. No, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story, bro. Thank you for the time. Where can they find you on social media and what podcasts and all that?
Well, the podcast Instagram is just Saved and Savage. No underscores or anything. Saved and Savage. My personal is just my name, Preston Hocker, Hocker. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Twitter account, but I should use it way more than I do.
Me too, man. My Twitter sucks.
My Twitter sucks.
If I feel like if you if you weren't on the train like 10 years ago, then it's not moving, you know? Like if
I've actually had a good experience on Twitter once. I was at a children's pastors conference and I didn't have contact solution. And so I used the conference like hashtag on Twitter and said, anybody got any contact solution? Use the hashtag. A guy hit me up like maybe 5 minutes later. I got contact solution.
Nice.
So Twitter's kind of cool for contact solution.
I was just too late on the train though, you know? Like
yeah. It's like TikTok. I feel like
get on it, bro.
I don't know.
You can do it.
Are you on TikTok?
Nope.
I have a TikTok.
You should use it, man. I mean, Gary Vee said that's the next thing, and especially for the youth and everything.
My sister has a TikTok. My sister's TikTok is pretty bang, but yeah, my sister. Well, my nephew, he's like a Disney kid, so I think that kind of helps with their TikTok.
Yeah, and I think the algorithm is different. So whatever you put on there, like it has a lot more views organically than anything else. So
maybe when we get off of this, I'll go do a TikTok.
Maybe I'll make one. We gotta go with the times, man. But hey, thanks again for all of your time, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love your story, bro. And
have you on my show soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
it'll be fun.
Whenever you have time to record and for you to interview me, let's do it.
All right, cool.
All right, man. You have a blessed day. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Thank you.